Hey guys, Dustin Com here with Adventist Hoops. Before we get into this compelling story with Carla Monnier, I want to tell you about a new company called Advent Sports that's looking to make a difference in Adventist athletics. Go to advent-sports.com and check out what they have available. In particular, I want you to look at their college prep camps. Man, I would have loved to go to an Adventist camp like this back in the day. Campers are going to get hands-on training and mentorship from current college coaches. There's going to be weight training. It's going to be a great way to help you get ready to play at the next level. They also have skills academies that teach the fundamentals for anyone to play at a high level. I know the guys at Advent Sports. I know they're doing it for the right reasons. They want to see our Adventist athletes flourish in an Adventist environment. So take a look. If you know someone that is looking to take their game to the next level, send them to advent-sports.com to learn more. Now onto the show with Carla Monnier. Hey everybody, welcome to the Adventist Hoops podcast. Today we have one of the best female Adventist basketball players I've ever seen with my own two eyes. She played at Mesa Grande Academy in the late 2000s and then at PUC. What was the years at PUC?
2008 to 12.
2008 to 12. She's got quite the story. As an adult, she was the victim of a horrific drive-by shooting that changed her entire life, and we'll hear all about her journey and how basketball has been a part of her life throughout all of it, even up until today in her current role as an assistant for the Forest Lake Academy girls. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Carla Monnier to the Adventist Hoops podcast. Welcome, Carla.
Thank you for having me, Dustin.
So, Carla, I got to meet you when you were in high school at Mesa Grande Academy. I was coaching the boys. I was coaching your twin brother, Casey, and I got to see you play. I guess it would have been probably 2007, 2008, your senior year, because if you started at PUC 2008, I arrived in 2007. So, but I don't really know about your journey up until that point. So when did you first start playing basketball? What was your earlier days like with the game of basketball?
So my motivation with basketball started when we were in Maryland. I loved the Lakers, and they were going on a three-peat. So, my early days, I don't know if I can blame myself, but maybe I was a little bandwagon, jumping on that bandwagon.
That sounds about right for a Lakers fan.
Yeah. Okay, well, ouch. So we'll move on.
Just a bitter Kings fan over here, so.
Yeah, well, Mike Bibby was one of my favorites, so hey, there you go.
All right.
But started watching basketball and then started playing at recess and ended up really enjoying it. Ended up playing with the boys a lot and made my first basketball team in 5th grade for the Beltsville Bobcats in Maryland. And
that was a club team?
That was our middle school team.
Okay.
So, a lot of really good memories in those early years because I got to play with my sister, and then we didn't play for a while together, and then we played again in high school together. So just really fun learning the game. I think some of us, I think you can speak to this. Some things come a little bit more naturally, and it happened to be for me, I was a little bit more natural, but then got really into it and put a lot of work into it. So, by the time you saw me, I'd been playing for a lot of years and had put in a lot of work to kind of get where I was.
Did you ever play club basketball?
I didn't.
Was that ever like a consideration?
There was a club team at my middle school at Mesa Grande, but it was not a serious club team by any means. Like the girls who actually didn't make the team at school would play on the club team.
Okay.
But that was never something that I really was even aware of, I don't think.
Yeah. Same for me. Especially with the Sabbath issues, that was really never anything that I even knew was an option growing up. But now I feel like it's almost a requirement. If you really want to play at a high level, maybe play at the next level, people feel like they got to play club basketball. But
yeah,
that wasn't the case for you. So you moved from Maryland then out to Southern California?
Right. So we were from Southern California. My dad taught at SAA for a while. then went to Maryland, came back to California. A lot of people knew we would always come back because they're
I
like, oh,
gotta,
everybody that
I
we
gotta just clarify. SAA being Spencerville.
know,
Oh,
Sacramento.
Sacramento. Okay, okay. I thought
Yeah.
you said he taught in Maryland. So
Oh no, he was the pastor there.
okay, okay.
So we came back to California because that's where our family was. And when we were looking for high schools, the one that was most acceptable for us to go to as a kid of a pastor, it was the closest one to the church he was pastoring. So we ended up going to Mesa Grande, and I actually really enjoyed my time there. I know other people had different experiences, but it was a good school for me.
You guys had a lot of success over the time that you were there. I was there a few more years after that, and there was success then. What do you attribute all that success to for that girls program over a stretch of maybe 10 years, maybe longer?
I think there are two factors. I think one is that the coaching staff was phenomenal. And it's not even, I think they were fundamentally really awesome coaches, but it was so much more special than that, in that you really felt like you were part of something and you knew that your coaches really cared about you. And that was what made the difference. And that's what made people want to continue to be a part of it. And then I think we also got super lucky with some really good athletes. So Megan Bradford was ahead of me, probably the best female athlete that I've ever seen. And then her younger sister came after me. So it was like solid players, which normally I don't think you get that many solid players year after year or every couple years. And I think that contributed hugely to our success.
And there was a tradition that you guys were coming into. Coach Bob Walker had kind of established this culture over a number of years. I remember when I came in, um, you know, the boys did not have that, and so
Yeah.
I was sort of trying to start like building a new culture over the course of a few years there. But you guys had that. I mean, how would you guys beat teams usually? What kind of style did you guys play?
So quickly to go back, I think one of the things that's massive in Adventist sports that we don't have enough of is the fact that as high school players, we were on the same campus as the elementary school. And so every summer we would put on a camp for all the students that were below us. And so these kids that were in first grade looked up to us as like all stars, and then they would put in the work. But so by the time they got to high school, they were then successful as well. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
The style of play that we played, we were definitely a quick team. We did have some size later on, but we didn't always have size. So just very fundamental. I think everybody knew their role. I think that's massive because someone like my sister will tell you, like, she wasn't the most athletic person, but she had a very specific role that she played incredibly well. And so nobody was trying to play out of their limits. Everybody knew their role and they did it well. And I think that was what created so much success for us as well.
And just some of the accolades. I mean, you guys were in California. Instead of, well, there's districts and then there's a section which is like the Southern California section is all of Southern California, and you guys are regularly competing in the section playoffs. I'm trying to remember, during your time, which would have been before me except for that last year, did you guys get to a section championship?
So the year my sister was like a freshman or sophomore is when Megan Bradford was there. They did get to the championship, the pyramid. And then 2 years later, when they were seniors, we did it again. So we did twice, but I think they also changed the way that they were doing the sections. First, it was like by school size, and then they changed it to record a little bit.
Yeah,
And so we didn't ever end up winning one,
yeah.
unfortunately.
But year after year, winning the league that you guys were in and moving on through the playoffs, a very successful program. When I saw you in January here, 2025, at the Andrews tournament, I asked your girls for a sake. I'm like, "Do you guys know how good Coach was?" And they didn't really know. And like, you would have been the best player at the Andrews tournament. Just tell a little bit. Describe your game for people that haven't seen you play.
So I was definitely a pass first point guard. I definitely like to set people up. I could score sometimes. I wasn't like an automatic scorer, I wouldn't say, but I knew how to set up my teammates. And so I think that was my biggest attribute. Um, And then I just wanted it. Like I wanted to be really good and I wanted to win. And so I think that drives you to have more effort and play harder, and then your teammates play harder. So that was really my game. I don't think I was a very good defender. I don't think I was a very good scorer, but definitely a better passer than anything else.
So I did not get to see you play after high school. You go on to Pacific Union College. What was that transition like for you between high school and college?
It was really rough, especially coming from such a good program where it was like we walked into a gym and we knew we were going to win type of thing, at least in the Adventist system. Let's let all caveat to that. But going to college, I really thought it was going to be more of the same. And when I got there, realizing, first of all, it's a lot more hours, I would say, that we had to put in. But then it was also a lot more hours that you felt like you weren't getting results for. And so every game I knew, normally when I went into a game, I was like, okay, this is going to be the most fun minutes of my week. In college, when I went to a game, I said, these are going to be the most exhausting minutes of this week. And it got to the point where I was dreading games because I knew I was just going to be so physically exhausted by the end of it. Um, and there was a moment when I just broke down and realized we are never going to win a game this season. And then it had to be a mindset change of, am I doing this to win or am I doing this for something else? And then I had to figure out, why was I doing this? And it really was just because I loved the game. I ended up making really good friends, so I loved my friends on the team. And so it really switched from winning to, oh, I do actually really love basketball.
How do you think PUC could have been more competitive in your era? This is a larger kind of conversation about Adventist college competition, and the level of play and all of that. That's why I asked, not to harp in on the
No, no, no. I
records
mean,
while you were there, but
I'll have to go to therapy after this, but it's fine. Um, no, I think that we didn't recruit. Like I was never recruited to PUC.
hmm,
So no, the only school that ever talked to me about going to their school was Walla Walla, and I almost went there solely for that reason because I was like, oh, they want me, and so I think that was massive. Um, we still don't do a great job of doing that. I know that there are kids that I see that are really good that are going to different schools or not playing at all because it's not competitive. Even Megan Bradford went to Cal Baptist, so I think she was recruited a little bit, but she was also recruited to better schools. So there was that. We
and
just
that's
don't do a.
Division two, I believe,
I
NCAA.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just think that recruiting could be a lot better, and it's really about making the kids feel wanted. I think that's ultimately what they want because we know we're not going to go play beyond college. Most of us know we may not even play in college. So if I'm going to go somewhere and play, I want to feel like you want me to go there.
Let's talk about Andrews. How do you think they did with that? What you're talking about at the tournament?
I don't know how they were with other teams. I know that our girls who had been talked to, I think the previous year or throughout the year, but I don't know that they had coaches at the games that then came up and talked to the girls after the games. At least not what I heard from my girls or what we heard from other schools. So I think there's improvement to be made. I mean, that's an awesome opportunity. You have all these athletes coming to you and you want to take advantage of that. And, you know,
Yeah, I don't know if it's been happening at. I'm pretty sure it's been happening at Union tournament, but other colleges, I like the coaches aren't even there because sometimes because of away games that they have scheduled at the same time, and it's kind of unfortunate. I think that over the last year and a half with Adventist Hoops, we've been able to highlight certain players that coaches, and it's not the coach's fault. Like, how are they supposed to know about all these players across the country
yeah,
unless players reach out to them? So I always tell players, like, go ahead and reach out to coaches, um, and coaches, let's put a little more effort into recruiting Adventist kids, So anyway, that's completely aside from your story,
yeah.
but I knew we actually have pretty similar stories because I was recruited by several schools, including Walla Walla. PUC, I believe, didn't make an effort because they thought maybe I was going elsewhere anyways, and so they just didn't even try, but it was close to home. And I actually had some medical issues I was dealing with and ended up being a great place to play, although it was also very hard, and I actually took a year off. After my third year, it became like, it's hard for me to even believe that it happened, but because I love it so much, but I got beat down over 3 years and actually like took a year off and then came back and did my fourth year after that. So I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
We can talk about this more later offline. We can go
Yeah.
through a little bit shared therapy here ourselves. But um, so you graduate from PUC. Your degree is in
Exercise science.
exercise science. You go on to be a physical therapist.
I did. I went to Loma Linda for physical therapy school, graduated there in 2015. Um,
Did you continue
then
playing? Were you playing intramurals at the Drayson Center there?
always, we were playing on
Always.
girls' teams, guys' teams. Yeah, we were all the sports, not just basketball.
Yeah. And so basketball continues to be, an important part of your life. Um, and then at some point you graduate, your husband, Daniel, who also played at PUC, you guys
Hmm.
get an opportunity to move back to Florida and are working there. Take us through your stage of life when you're in Florida and leading up to the accident. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah. So Daniel moved here a year before I did, and I told him, we're not going to get married, and I'm not going to move out there unless we get married. So we ended up getting married. I moved out, um, worked as a physical therapist, started coaching then with the Forest Lake varsity girls. Um, and then I had to take a year off because I was doing a residency program in orthopedics. So it was going to be too much. And during that residency program is when I was actually just driving home from work and I ended up being shot, which is still insane to say. Was shot in the chest and a lot of internal damage, but more significantly, a T6 spinal cord injury. And so I am in a full time wheelchair now. Um, and that obviously is going to make a big change in anyone's life. But as a physical therapist, my job depended on my ability to move and to move limbs and different things. And so I knew that my job as a physical therapist, as it was no longer going to be able to happen. So started looking at different options. What can I do? Looked into research. The Advent Health was incredible and still kept me on as a part-time employee, working up to full-time. And that's when I got the call from Whole Life Church to come and be their youth pastor just for the summer. And then after the summer, they hired me on full-time. And so I was doing part-time for Advent Health, part-time for Whole Life, and then became full-time here. And so it's been a journey. And it took me a while to get back to basketball.
What year was this that this happened?
This was in 2018.
Okay, so 7 years ago as of this recording. And you know, you kind of gave us the one sentence summary there, but I know that you've told the story before, and you were on the phone with one of your friends, right? And all of a sudden they hear from you like, I think I think I've been shot, or they're shooting at me, or there's guns or something. Is that right?
Yeah, so when I'm driving down this road, I was on the phone with a friend who I hadn't talked on the phone with before. And as a millennial, we usually just text. So it was unusual that I was talking to this person on the phone. But as we were talking on the phone, I was driving down the road. A car kind of pulls out of their driveway, so I'm almost stopped, and they start turning towards me, and I just start seeing like the flashes of a gun, and then I hear gunshots start hitting my car. And I was like, I think someone's shooting at me. And then the next thing I knew, my phone was no longer in my hands. And I think that was just like the impact of the bullet. And I could hear my friend being saying, like, hey, Carla, are you okay? And then I ended up passing out. They called the cops and they pinged my phone, which is how they found me. Otherwise, it would have been game over because the people who lived on that road didn't actually come out of their homes. So
Just for
yeah,
fear
very
of what
thankful
was
for them.
going on. I'm sure they
Yeah,
heard it all, but
yeah.
wow.
And so I was directly taken to the trauma center here, Orlando Health, and performed three massive surgeries. And through the first like 2 weeks, it was very touch and go of if I was going to make it or not. And so I think some of the concern was, is she cognitively going to be there when she wakes up?
Mm.
And then also, then later became, okay, she woke up and she's cognitively here. Will she ever walk again? And so that was kind of the struggle. And you can have some spontaneous recovery from spinal cord injuries. And so you never know. Due to the bullet fragments in my back, we weren't able to do an MRI. But they did say that, just the heat of the bullet and everything that happened, it's possible that that could cause the spinal cord injury.
Mm. What is your first memory post accident? Was it like a week, a few days, or a couple weeks after that that you have, your first memories? Or
So I was intubated for 6 days. And so I don't remember anything those first 6 days. I probably don't remember much until like day 8. Um, I think my first memory was just that I was in so much pain and I could not move. And so, like, almost feeling there was one point in the hospital where there was a friend and Daniel were watching football together or something while I was sleeping. And I woke up and I just remember thinking, like, I feel like I'm the same person, but I'm trapped in this body that no longer works for me anymore, which is a defining moment for me for sure.
mm. did you um, did you know at that moment that you were gonna be paralyzed, or you didn't know because maybe you felt like I can move, it's just painful and I can't, or were you like, I'm pretty sure I can't move my limbs right now?
Oh no, being a physical therapist, a lot of the tests that people do, a lot of the recovery you could have. And so I was pretty convinced early on that there wasn't going to be recovery and that's not any scientific, that I just felt intuitively that that's was going to be my state. But at that point I had like a brace on because my back was broken. So like I literally couldn't move because my legs couldn't move, but I was also like stitched up everywhere and I was in this brace. And so it was like I could not do anything for myself at that point, which, as someone who's independent, and we're all independent until we're not, but um, it was a very demoralizing feeling,
Hmm.
not being able to do anything for yourself.
Hmm. You said that it was a long time before you ever thought about basketball. When did you think about basketball?
I think it was a long time before I got into the mindset that I could potentially go back. Um, it was probably a few years after when my friend first asked me to help her coach, and I knew at that point that I wasn't ready. Um, And so I waited another like 2 years. And so part of the reason I went back was for the other coaches on the coaching staff. We're both good friends. If they had not been there, I probably wouldn't have gone back. I think some of it takes, you earn respect from the girls when you can cross them up or like make them look foolish. And I knew that that wasn't going to happen anymore. And so was I able to coach from a different standpoint? Was I able to teach them through words versus through actions? Um, all of those things were doubts in my mind if I was going to be able to do that. But once I knew that my friends were the ones coaching, I was like, honestly, even if they don't get much from me as a coach, at least I get time with these girls and I'm able to hopefully make the not only my friends, but also the girls in the team maybe laugh a little bit more or maybe smile a little bit more that day. And that was really, I wasn't going in thinking like I can change this program by my strategy or my anything else that I had to offer. It was more of, can I just come and be a part of something cool
Hmm.
and make somebody laugh a little bit more today?
Hmm. Going back real quick to that hospital, did you you said you'd still been playing basketball, post college career, like what was that moment like when you're thinking I'm not going to be able to play how I've always played?
I don't know if I thought about it that early. I think I was thinking about other things in terms of like,
You're also like, it sounds like it was like that was like probably the last thing on your mind, just trying to live.
like, how am I going to live in my house? We have a 2-story house.
Yeah,
Like, how am
yeah.
I going to do my job? How am I going to, and some of the things I still think about, like, what am I going to be like if I want to have kids? Like, I can't do the same things that other parents can do.
Hmm.
I've always wanted to be somebody who was leading by example in terms of health. And that's not something I've done lately and not something that I'll be able to do in the same way. So we all have these visions of what we think our life is going to be and how we're going to show up in life. And then life happens and then you're like, oh, okay, now how do I navigate this situation? And so I think in terms of basketball was always something that I knew who I was on the court. Like everybody knew who I was on the court. And so I think that gave me identity, that gave me confidence, that gave me a lot of things that helped me in different areas of my life. And as an adult, it's very hard to find places to actually play basketball. So it wasn't like a massive part of my life at that moment that I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to do this again,
Yeah.
which I think we could do better, like having more women's leagues and things so that women who do want to play can get involved because we do have that for men.
Yeah. You know, a lot of coaches go through the similar kind of transition between playing and coaching where they realize like, oh shoot, I can't really just like, make the kids do what I know I can do. I have to find out a way to teach them. And it sounds like you also had like a new transition from what you were describing. What did you figure out works in your state, post accident? Like, what do practices look like? What do games look like? How do the girls, bring you into whatever is happening?
One of the things that I've realized is that when you're trying to teach someone a Euro step and you can't show them what that looks like, it's very difficult to describe. And so I would often pull up videos or find videos on Instagram or TikTok and pull it up and say like, hey guys, this is what I'm actually wanting you to do, and then have them try to do it. That was my best way to have them do something that I wanted them to do. But in terms of just showing up to practice every day, part of the reason as a coach, I think that I liked coaching before is because there are so little opportunities for you to play that when you go to practice, you get some of that. You get the drills and you get that. And so that was gone now. And that's something that I still miss a lot is that I don't have those little moments or even off season when you're playing pickup with the girls. Those are the parts that I miss a lot where I'm not able to do the thing that I love. It's not just coaching anymore. It's actually the thing that I love. And that has been a loss for me. And I think that it's something I probably should explore a little bit more.
I was going to ask, like, do you ever get some shots up still?
It's interesting people have always asked me, like, why don't you play wheelchair basketball or why don't you do this or that, all these different active things. And I think because I had a level of expectation that I know I'll never get to again, I actually prefer not to play.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't shoot because it's like, it's just not the same. You don't get the same reward. And so I just don't do the different things that I would love to do.
Do you ever get pulled in, in a drill or in a practice? I mean, I'm just curious because I haven't seen you in practice. Like, what does it look like? Are you able to jump in, in a 5-on-5 situation, just walking through something, or how does that work?
The only times I jump in is if it's, we're going to add an extra defender or just to be like in an area. I don't typically do anything beyond that in terms of jumping in the drills.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about your team's success this past year. I got to see him in person at the Andrews tournament, as I mentioned. Yeah, brag on their success this year.
I want to say that this team started years before I got here and getting to the point where they are and were this year. They had Lauren McCoy is the head coach, has put a lot of time and effort into these girls, coached them in JV, followed them up through varsity, and then Alex Adam, our main assistant, along with Larry, have put in a lot of work. So I feel like the foundation was already set. And then I came in to this program that was already built, and then they had massive success. And so I think it was last year they lost, I think, the third place game at the Andrews tournament. So they talked about after that tournament, what do we want to do next year? Where do we want to be? And all of them agreed, we want to be at the championship game. And so a lot of work went in this season. as everyone says, blood, sweat, and tears, literally. And these girls just really came together. There was one point in the season where we just had a team outing, and the girls came together in a way that you can only dream of happening. And it was more of an emotional chemistry thing than a basketball thing. And that's where it starts. And that's where then the chemistry on the court started to happen. And so, super proud of the girls for how much work they put in. We did lose in the championship game, but they played really well. First half really stuck with North Tampa, and kudos to North Tampa. They have an excellent team. But I will say, after that game, there weren't a lot of tears. There wasn't a lot of sadness. These girls knew, like, they played their hearts out, and there wasn't any more that they could do in that game. And so held their heads high, and really proud of them for that.
And they reached their goal. I mean, if you reach your
They
goal,
did.
what they said, I mean, you can't be too disappointed with that. Yeah. Talk about a few of your leaders.
Yes, we have 5 seniors on the team, so we are going to be missing them next year. 2 of them made your All-American team. So Braylon and Brooke will be there. Super excited for them. But we also have 2 our captains, Alyssa Villanueva and Alyssa Vasquez, who are really the heart and soul of this team. Those are the ones who kept this team together, who motivate the team, who really show up, which makes other people show up. I'm just really excited for what they're going to do in life. You know, basketball is fun, and most of them won't play in college. But the things that they learn here and the memories they take away is what's most important. So I'm excited to see how they change the world in their own little world.
Well, Carla, I want to thank you for joining us, telling a little bit of your story and your journey. And I want to just ask you a final question, which I ask almost everybody. And I'm really curious what your answer is. And that is, what does basketball mean to you?
Oh, that's a good one. Basketball was an opportunity for me to find out who I was and to foster relationships. And truly, from that came other opportunities that helped me not only create friendships, but also share the gospel. I think that the gospel is shared through lived experiences and the way that you treat people. And what an awesome opportunity we have on the basketball court to do that.
And do you feel that I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you would maybe even say that basketball has been the method to reconnect you with who you are, even after, such life change. Is that fair to
Yeah.
say? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that it's also given me freedom to explore other parts of myself that maybe basketball distracted me from.
Mm.
Yeah. But basketball has always been and always will be a very big piece of my identity and who made me the person that I am.
Well, Carla, thank you so much for joining us on the Adventist Hoops podcast. It was really cool to see you and at Andrews here this past season, and looking forward to seeing what Forest Lake girls can do this next year. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Dustin, for everything you do. It's really important, really needed, and you're the perfect person to do it. So thank you.